Hey there, dad warriors. Ever feel like you're carrying around a little extra plastic in your life? Well, it turns out you might be. Today, we're tackling a jaw-dropping topic: microplastics in men's testicles. Yep, you heard that right. These sneaky little particles are showing up in places we never expected. So, if you want to learn how to protect your health and keep your testosterone levels roaring, stick around. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. We've got a lot to cover today, from what microplastics are and how they get into our bodies to practical tips on how to kick them out for good. And of course, we'll sprinkle in some dad jokes to keep things light. Let's roll. Before we get into this video about microplastic ball shrinkers, make sure to check out that link in the description for one of my best recommendations on how to boost testosterone. Make sure to check out that link. And now let's get straight into the video. First up, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What exactly are microplastics? These tiny particles are less than 5 millimeters in diameter and come from the breakdown of larger plastic waste. They're everywhere, in our water, food, air, and now our bodies. Stick with me, because next we'll uncover the shocking study that found these pesky plastics in our testicles. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Alright, let's talk about that mind-blowing study. Researchers at the University of New Mexico discovered microplastics in every testicular tissue sample they examined, both in humans and dogs. And guess what? Humans had nearly 3 times the amount found in dogs. We're talking about an average of 3.29 micrograms per gram of testicular tissue in humans. That's a lot of plastic where it shouldn't be. Hang tight, because in just a minute, we'll discuss how these microplastics are getting into our bodies. Now, you might be wondering, how do these microplastics get into our bodies? Well, there are a few ways. We can inhale them, eat them, drink them, and even absorb them through our skin. For instance, drinking water from plastic bottles can introduce a ton of microplastics into our system over time. Coming up next, we'll dive into why this matters for your health, especially for us over 40. So, why should we care about these tiny particles? Microplastics can cause oxidative stress, which messes with how our cells function. This is especially bad news for our reproductive system. In my studies, high doses of microplastics led to lower levels of important hormones like testosterone. But don't worry, we've got solutions coming right up to help you combat this issue. Stay tuned, dad warriors. Up next, we'll cover practical tips to reduce your exposure to microplastics. You won't want to miss this. It's all about making simple changes to protect your health and keep those T levels high. Let's get to it. Alright, dad warriors, let's talk about this jaw-dropping study from the University of New Mexico. Researchers examined testicular tissue from both humans and dogs, and guess what they found? Microplastics in every single sample. I know, it's wild. But here's the kicker. Humans had nearly 3 times the amount found in dogs. We're talking about an average of 329 micrograms per gram of testicular tissue in humans. That's a lot of plastic where it shouldn't be. Can you imagine that, dads? It's like our bodies are turning into recycling bins. I was talking to my buddy Steve about this, and he joked that if we keep going at this rate, we might start attracting magnets. But seriously, this is something we need to pay attention to. Now, you might be wondering, how exactly do these microplastics end up in our bodies? Well, there are a few ways. We can inhale them, eat them, drink them, and even absorb them through our skin. For instance, if you're sipping water from plastic bottles daily, you're essentially chugging down tiny plastic particles over time. Steve, the guy I mentioned earlier, was telling me how he switched to glass water bottles last year. He said, better safe than plasticky. It's these small changes that can make a big difference. Coming up, we'll dive into why this matters for your health, especially for us men over 40. But first, let's acknowledge just how pervasive these microplastics are. Imagine this: every time you drink from a plastic water bottle, tiny microplastics could be making their way into your system. And it's not just water bottles. They're in our food, our air, and even the clothes we wear. Steve was laughing about his old polyester workout shirt, saying, "Who knew my shirt could be part of the problem?" It's everywhere, folks. Alright, Dad Warriors, stick with me here. Up next, we're going to break down why these microplastics are such a big deal for your health. Especially if you're over 40. You'll want to hear this. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of how microplastics impact our bodies and what we can do to fight back. So don't go anywhere, we're just getting started. Alright, Dad Warriors, now that we've wrapped our heads around the fact that microplastics are hitching a ride to some very private real estate, let's dive into how they're getting there in the first place. Spoiler alert, it's not because we're buying them tickets. So here's the scoop. Microplastics can enter our bodies in a few different ways. We can inhale them, eat them, drink them, and even absorb them through our skin. It's like they're the uninvited guests to every party. Take this plastic water bottle, for example. If you're chugging down water from these bad boys every day, you're not just hydrating, you're potentially swallowing microplastics too. I was chatting with my friend Mike and he was like, "Guess it's time to switch to stainless steel. I'd rather avoid the surprise seasoning." But it's not just water bottles. These sneaky plastics are in our food and air too. For instance, seafood can be a major source. I remember Mike telling me about a time he felt like a fancy chef buying fresh fish. Little did he know, his gourmet meal might have come with a side of microplastics. Even the air we breathe isn't safe. Think about all the dust and tiny fibers floating around. They're not just harmless fluff. They can contain microplastics from all sorts of sources, including those comfy polyester shirts we love to wear. It's like we're living in a plastic snow globe. Alright, Dad Warriors, it's clear these microplastics are pretty determined to stick around. But don't worry, coming up next, we're going to tackle why this matters, especially for our health as we age. And trust me, you'll want to stick around for the tips on how to reduce your exposure. We're just getting warmed up, so don't go anywhere. Alright, Dad Warriors, let's get serious for a moment. We've talked about how microplastics get into our bodies, but why should we care? What's the big deal with these tiny particles? Well, it turns out they can cause some pretty nasty issues, especially for us guys over 40. Microplastics can cause something called oxidative stress. Now, I know that sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's real and it's serious. Oxidative stress messes with how our cells function and can lead to inflammation and damage to various tissues, including our reproductive system. It's like having a bad spark plug in your engine. Everything just starts to misfire. High levels of microplastics have been linked to lower testosterone levels in mice. Now, I know we're not mice, but the science suggests similar effects could happen in humans. And for us guys, testosterone is crucial. It's what keeps us feeling strong, energetic, and well, manly. Imagine this. Low testosterone doesn't just mean feeling tired or losing muscle mass. It can also affect your mood, your libido, and even your overall health. It's like driving a sports car with no fuel. You're not going to get very far. That's why it's so important to understand what these microplastics are doing to our bodies and take steps to minimize their impact. So, Dad Warriors, now that we know the stakes, what can we do about it? Coming up next, we're diving into practical tips to reduce our exposure to microplastics. From making simple swaps in our daily routines to choosing the right foods, we've got you covered. You won't want to miss this. It's all about taking control of our health and keeping those testosterone levels high. Alright, Dad Warriors, let's roll up our sleeves and tackle this head on. We know microplastics are sneaking into our lives from all directions, but we're not helpless here. There are plenty of practical steps we can take to reduce our exposure and protect our health. Let's dive in. First up, avoid single-use plastics. Ditch those plastic straws, bags, and water bottles. Go for reusable alternatives like stainless steel or glass containers. It's a small change that can make a big difference. Plus, you'll look super cool with your sleek, reusable gear. Next, choose plastic-free personal care products. Those little microbeads in some facial scrubs and toothpaste, they're bad news. Opt for natural, chemical-free alternatives. Your skin will thank you, and you'll be reducing your plastic footprint at the same time. Now, let's talk food. Eat organic and locally sourced food whenever you can. Microplastics can be found in seafood and processed foods. By choosing organic and locally sourced options, you're cutting down on potential contaminants. And hey, supporting local farmers is always a win. Another big one. Use a water filter. Install one at home to remove microplastics from your drinking water. It's an easy way to make sure the water you and your family are drinking is as clean as possible. And don't forget to avoid plastic packaging. Choose products with minimal or biodegradable packaging. It might take a bit more effort, but your health is worth it. But that's not all. Stick around, because next, we're going to talk about supporting your body's natural detox processes. It's all about giving your body the tools it needs to flush out those pesky plastics and keep you feeling your best. Stay with me. You won't want to miss this. Alright, Dad Warriors. Now that we've talked about reducing our exposure to microplastics, let's focus on helping our bodies detox naturally. Our bodies are pretty good at flushing out toxins, but we can give them a little extra support. Here's how. First up, eat a balanced diet. Load up on fruits, veggies, whole grains, and lean proteins. These foods support your body's natural detox processes and keep everything running smoothly. Plus, they're packed with nutrients that help repair and protect your cells. Staying hydrated is also crucial. Drink plenty of water to help flush out toxins, including microplastics. Think of it as giving your body a regular rinse cycle. Keeping a reusable water bottle handy is a great way to remind yourself to sip throughout the day. Regular exercise is another key player. Exercise stimulates the lymphatic system, which plays a crucial role in removing toxins from the body. Whether it's a brisk walk, a gym session, or a bike ride, get moving and keep that lymph fluid circulating. And let's not forget about sleep. Getting enough sleep is essential for the body's natural detox processes. Aim for 7 to 9 hours a night. During deep sleep, your body works hard to repair itself and flush out toxins. It's like hitting the reset button every night. There are also a few natural remedies that can help remove microplastics from your body. Activated charcoal is great for absorbing and removing toxins. Just be sure to use it occasionally and not as a daily supplement. Then we have chlorella and spirulina. These types of algae can help remove heavy metals and microplastics from the body. You can add them to your smoothies or take them as supplements. Omega-3 fatty acids are another great addition. They reduce inflammation and support the body's detox processes. You can get them from fatty fish like salmon or from supplements. Finally, probiotics are fantastic for supporting your gut health. A healthy gut microbiome is crucial for detoxing. You can get probiotics from fermented foods like yogurt, sauerkraut, or from supplements. So, Dad Warriors, those are some solid ways to support your body's natural detoxification. Up next, we're going to share some additional tips to reduce your exposure even further. Stay with me, we're almost there. Before we get to our additional tips, make sure to check out that link in the description for my best recommendation when it comes to boosting your testosterone and your manhood. Stay strong, legends. Alright, Dad Warriors. We've talked about reducing exposure and supporting our body's detox processes. But there are a few more tips to help keep those pesky microplastics at bay. Let's dive into some additional strategies that can make a big difference. First up, consider using a HEPA air purifier. These can help remove microplastics and other pollutants from the air in your home. It's especially useful if you live in an urban area or near sources of pollution. Keeping the air clean means fewer particles to breathe in. Next, make sure to dust and vacuum regularly. Microplastics can settle in household dust, so keeping your home clean can reduce the amount you're exposed to. Use a vacuum with a HEPA filter for the best results. When it comes to food prep, avoid using plastic cookware and cutting boards. Opt for alternatives like wood or stainless steel. Plastic cutting boards can shed microplastics into your food, especially if they're old and scratched. And speaking of food, microwave your meals in glass containers instead of plastic. Heating plastic can cause it to break down and release microplastics into your food. Glass or ceramic containers are much safer options. Another tip is to avoid plastic-wrapped foods as much as possible. Look for products with minimal or biodegradable packaging. It's better for you and the environment. Plus, it often means you're buying fresher, less processed foods. Lastly, avoid plastic water bottles, especially ones that have been exposed to the sun for long periods. The heat can cause them to break down and release microplastics. Invest in a good quality, reusable bottle instead. Alright, Dad Warriors, these additional tips can go a long way in reducing your exposure to microplastics. Stick with me, because up next, we'll do a quick recap of everything we've covered today, and leave you with some final thoughts on keeping those microplastics at bay and maintaining your health. Stay tuned. So, Dad Warriors, it's clear that while microplastics are a serious issue, there's a lot we can do to reduce our exposure and support our body's ability to detoxify. By making these changes, we're not just protecting our health today, but we're setting ourselves up for a healthier future. Remember, it's all about taking small, consistent steps. Every change you make adds up, and before you know it, you'll be living a cleaner, healthier life. So let's take action. Stay informed and keep those testosterone levels roaring. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe for more tips on staying healthy and fit after 40. And be sure to check out my last video on boosting testosterone naturally. It's packed with great info you won't want to miss. Stay strong, stay healthy, and remember, it's not just about living longer, but living better. Catch you in the next one, where we continue to build a legendary life, one day at a time.